G'day guys and welcome back. Today we're going to be installing a shower tent awning on my 2000 model Toyota Land Cruiser. As you can see, the roof rack sits inside the body line of the vehicle, so the awning needs to be able to slide out to clear the side when it's set up. Righto, so here's an equipment list of all the stuff we need. We've got the awning itself. We've got a 1 metre length of 30 by 30 square tubing. Two 1 metre lengths of 25 by 25 square tubing, and they fit pretty snugly inside the 30 by 30. 5-inch angle grinder with cut-off disc, flat disc and a grinding disc. They've got a square, marker pen and tape measure, 4 U-bolts that fit around the 30 by 30 tubing, and a spanner to tighten the nuts. Also got a set of earmuffs there so you don't go deaf, and my trusty old MIG welder. These are the U-bolts I used to secure the whole thing to the roof rack. Just had to hammer them over the tube because they were quite a tight fit, and don't you just love the message on the packet. Right, here we've got the length of 30 by 30 tubing. I'm just going to mark it halfway at 500mm using the tape measure and the marker, and I'll grab the square and continue the marks on all 4 sides. Next step is to grab your favourite angle grinder and just cut that piece of steel in half on the line you marked. Try not to cut your fingers off in the process. Make sure you're wearing your safety glasses, your earmuffs, and just like me, your safety boots. When you're cutting steel like this with the grinder and holding it by hand, just make sure you haven't got any of your body in front of the blade, because sometimes it can grab and pull the grinder into it and it's not fun, trust me. Change your cutting disc over to the flat disc. I lost the tool years ago but always managed to get it undone with my hands. Just make sure your grinder's not plugged in, so if you bump the switch you don't cut your finger off. Use the grinder to clean up any burrs, sharp edges on the end of the cuts you just made. Just makes it a bit nicer and less chance of cutting yourself too. As you can see here, the 2 different sizes of the tubing fit pretty well inside each other, which is just what we need. Open up the awning, grab out the mounting bolts, and there's 2 mounting brackets that we're going to need to modify. Right, grab your tape measure and your scribe. Fumble around with your tape measure for a minute there while you're trying to get everything lined up. Then make a mark down 25mm and then 70mm. Next, grab your square and those 2 marks you just made, just using the square, transfer them across. You can see the other mounting bracket on the left hand side. I've already made all the measurements and marks on that one, so I'm just replicating it on the second one. Then grab your dividers. I think I had them set to 4mm, and scribe a line from the 25mm mark down to the 70mm mark on either side, and that's going to mark where we're going to cut out so it fits inside the 25 by 25 tubing. Here you can see the 70mm mark I made. We're going to cut that off with the grinder, and then we're going to cut down this line, leaving a little 90-degree corner, and we'll do that on both of them. Now all these DIY projects are bound to make you hungry, So you stop, have a sandwich or two, keep plenty of fuel in the tank so you can power on through. Grab the grinder with the cut-off disc, cut right through the 70mm mark we made. You'll notice I'm holding on to the bracket with a pair of vice grips, just because the metal's bound to get hot and then you're bound to touch it and burn yourself. Make a small cut in at the 25mm mark, but only going up to the line that we scribed lengthways. Just do the same on the other side. Then flip it around, you can cut down the line we scribed lengthways, meeting up with the small cut you just made. Here's another free DIY tip. The sparks from the grinder actually make your sandwiches taste better. You might have to manoeuvre the piece around a couple of times, get a few different grips on it with the vice grips there. But I managed to do this and not burn myself once, doing both the brackets, which is pretty impressive. You'll see now that the bracket fits snugly inside the tubing, sits down there on that nice little shoulder we cut. So it'll be nice and secure in there. Here we've got the two bits of 25 by 25 tube. Made a mark down there, 45mm from the end, and mark it across with the square. And use a grinder with a grinding disc to remove the material along this corner from that 45mm mark down to that other mark, which is 5mm from the end of the tube. Do that on the top two corners of each one. Pretty self-explanatory here. We're just going to use the grinder to remove the material along the corner of the tube between the two marks. Just want to remove enough so that there's a bit of a gap there, so we can put the bracket in there, run a beater weld along there and secure the bracket to the tube. Grab yourself a screwdriver and just clean out those cuts you made, open it up a bit so there's a bit of room in there to whack a weld on it. Could have used a small file to tidy up the burrs and whatnot, but I couldn't bloody find one. Here we've got the two brackets pushed inside the tube. You see where brackets sit on the little cutout bits that we made. We're just going to run a beater weld along those and fill them up. Now you might notice that I'm not actually wearing a welding helmet here. I'm just closing my eyes while I do the tacks. It's not recommended, it's just what I do, so don't be silly. So be wearing closed-in shoes while you do this, because you're guaranteed to get a bit of hot slag down between the toes, and that's not fun at all. Now, I forgot to hit record when I welded them right up, but just got to grab the grinder now with a flap disc and clean up the weld. Just running gasless wire in here, so there's a bit of flux and crack and whatnot, so yeah, just tidy them up. Grab a rattle can and throw a bit of paint on them, cover up all the bare metal so they don't rust away. Make sure you're in a well ventilated area, not like my garage, otherwise you get high on paint fumes. Once again, I forgot to hit record while I mounted the 30x30 tubes onto the roof rack, but as you can see I just used U-bolts and a couple of bits of soft rubber underneath them so they didn't vibrate or anything like that. Just tighten down the nuts with a ratchet ring spanner there. This is another view from up top. You see how I've mounted it. Don't mind the quad bike and the sticks up on the roof. It's from a camping trip last weekend. So I just slid the 25x25 tubes with the brackets welded on them into the 30x30 tubes and then bolted the awning to it. Here you can see I'm just setting it up for the first time. The canvas wasn't attached to the actual awning, so I just got to go through and attach it all. It was at this stage I realised I didn't start at the right spot, so I should pay more attention when I'm doing things like this. Once you've actually started in the right spot with the right strap, it's just a case of making your way around, threading them through and pulling them all up tight, and eventually you'll get to the end and it'll be set up. Another brief moment of doubt here in myself, but I kept going and turned out alright. You can see here what I meant in the intro, how the roof rack's inside the body lines. I've had it mounted right on the side. Half the temp would have just been hanging on the side of the car, so it's worked out well. And for the final time I forgot to hit record while I was rolling it all up, but it does fold up inside the thing with all the canvas attached, so it's a pretty good result. I'll most likely just use a bit of rope, tie the awning back around the roof rack to keep it from sliding out, because I can't be bothered building a latch or anything like that. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, guys. I hope you found it informative and maybe learned something. So I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.